Hello, I'm Terry Likes, and welcome to another edition of Communication Connection. Thank you so much for joining us. A university is made up of many different types of degree programs, and if you're a college student, you're exploring your options. And today we're going to talk about how it is that a degree program is actually put together. How does it come to fruition? And our guest is Dr. John Nicholson, a tenured associate professor in the Department of Communication. John, thank you so much for joining us here on Communication Connection.
Good morning, Terry. My pleasure. Thank you.
Well, before we get into the nuts and bolts as to how you helped create this degree program, for which we're very thankful, tell us a little bit about your background. I know you have ties to the Memphis area and have also been in Iowa and Texas. What brought you to Mississippi State? Tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, as you mentioned, I grew up in Memphis and I went to the University of Memphis, which was then MSU, Mississippi. It was Memphis State University. Now it's the University of Memphis. And then I did my PhD at Iowa and got my first job in West Texas at a little school called Angelo State University. And as our kids were starting to grow up, my wife and I said we're 800 miles from home, and that didn't feel right to us. And so I started looking at programs and wanted to move up to a larger school. And Mississippi State had an opening a year or two later and applied, and we've been here since 2008, and very excited to be back in the Mid-South region is what we called it growing up, and so happy to be back in the South without it being Southwest.
Well, you mentioned being here since 2008, and even before that, there was talk in this Department of Communication for many years about the creation of a graduate program, a master's degree in communication. And in fact, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's one of the few in the College of Arts and Sciences here at Mississippi State, and one of the few in the SEC that did not have a graduate program.
Yes, in fact, I'm not sure, but as part of our proposal, we pointed out that we were the only school in our survey of the SEC. We were the only school that did not offer a master's degree in communication. In fact, several of the schools offer a PhD, but that's another step. We may get there, but not this year.
Well, what was the competition like? I know as part of this process you had to examine your competition, and we weren't the only one trying to create a graduate degree. There are others in the state that already had one.
That's correct. Ole Miss has a degree that is an extension of really what their programs have always been, a little more professional focused, and people think that, or our sense was that that was a little more PR oriented. And the PhD in the state of Mississippi is actually located in Hattiesburg at Southern Miss. And so they have a master's and a PhD, and Jackson State also offers classes as well.
Well, part of this process, you and some colleagues conducted some surveys over time. Tell us what those results produced.
The surveys, they were done, as you mentioned, at two different times. And what they showed really over a period of almost a decade is that there was a consistent and steady demand for advanced education in communication in this part of Mississippi. So Corona has changed things for a lot of people, but remote learning 3 years ago was much more foreign to many people than it is today. And so many people that we think are going to participate in the program live in or around Starkville, which makes a program in Hattiesburg much less accessible. And so we were hoping to be able to meet need that we feel like we generate in part with our own graduates from our undergraduate communication programs. So we really saw that there was a consistent need, that people wanted to take classes in communication and get a degree, a master's in communication, and they wanted to do it largely in Starkville.
Well, some people might think who don't work on a college campus that one can just create a degree program. That sounds like a good idea, but as we just heard, you did your research, you and your team, but it really is a painstaking process to put all of this together, and it doesn't just happen overnight. There are an overall program proposal. Each individual course has to have a proposal and have it approved, and it takes quite a process to pull all this together, doesn't it?
Oh, it surely does. And as you mentioned, we worked for years on this, and in fits and starts. And the proposal is it's almost like when I got a dissertation or went to get my PhD, there were 2 or 3 pages of here's what you need to do to complete the program, and just one line was write a thesis. So something that took a year may just be one sentence. And with the graduate program, the challenge is you have to make sure that you have the student demand. You have to make sure that you have uh, logical content areas, and perhaps in many ways, most important is you have to make sure that the university and the larger systems of the university are there and ready and capable of of launching and sustaining that program. So we are very grateful in the department. You keep mentioning me, and I really I blush at that. There have been dozens and dozens and dozens of people who have given everything from a few hours to dozens or even scores of hours to make this a reality, to get this program moving. And as you mentioned again, it's not just an instant process. Uh, there are so many different folks involved who want to make sure that the program is solid. And simply having that many people review it takes time. Um, uh, but as you know, in the last 2 years or so since you arrived, we've really gotten the push for the graduate program into overdrive, and we're super excited about where we are now.
Well, and to offer some context, you are always willing and made it clear to me that you were willing to help put all of this together. But in an upcoming episode, we'll talk about that with the new graduate coordinator about this program as it kicks off in a few months. But you were there, if you will, as the sausage was made as part of this program. But I can also say that I heard from a former department head from nearly 40 years ago who said this was the wish of the department, and now it's finally come to fruition. So again, kudos to you and your colleagues, and the colleagues who are no longer here but were part of these discussions for many, many years. Well, this program will meet the needs of many different types of students. So in your proposal, I know you targeted different types of students and the different needs that they have, either fresh coming out of an undergraduate program or mid-career. Tell us about the different types of students this may serve.
Mm. Yes, we thought about really, when I say thought about, we did surveys and we were able to identify a few target publics. One would be professionals who are looking to advance their careers and develop their skills. Second group are those who would want to teach communication, perhaps teach public speaking at junior colleges, community colleges, or at other universities. And then those who were looking to continue their education and get a PhD in communication. So we really see those as our three primary groups that we're reaching. You mentioned also folks coming fresh out of the undergraduate. We are really hopeful that as students join the program and complete the program, that we will be able to identify some really clear career paths that our alums will be following, and that we will then be able to direct others to follow that as well. So when you have a new program, you have a sense of what you think it's going to be and how people are going to use it. But until the students actually walk through the door and sit down and take the classes, it's tentative. It's a plan, but it's a hopeful plan as opposed to a plan where we have certainty at every turn. So very excited about getting students in the classes soon.
Well, and what types of classes will there be? I know that you're going to be teaching one of the inaugural classes as the program will kick off with a soft rollout in the spring of 2022. You'll be one of those teaching a night course in the department here in McComas Hall. But tell us about the courses, and will these be face-to-face or online?
So Dr. Holly Seitz will also be teaching one of the rollout courses in the spring. The courses, we really have three groups of courses. We have what we're calling theory courses, and then we have research methods-based courses, and then we have context and applied courses. So the theory courses help you learn about the larger theories in rhetoric and in communication studies, media studies. The methods-based courses help you not only use some of those research methodologies, but also, perhaps even more importantly, understand and consume research reports. And then the third group are content area courses. Those would be ones like health communication that give you a background in communication that's a little more targeted, a little more focused on one particular area. There's another one that's communication and leadership. There's another class that focuses on media relations between the actors in the media process. So our goal really was to give, and you're showing some elective courses, so those are great. But the idea was to have a solid foundation for the program in theory and methods, and then to allow students even greater flexibility in filling in approximately the second half of the program with electives that let them target the industries and the behaviors that they want to become more expert in.
And of course, students can often choose projects or research within the individual courses that will suit their needs rather than one specific type of project. So, John, we have just a few moments left. Tell us a little bit more about, as we look ahead, prospective students who might be interested in becoming a part of a program like this.
Yes, well, for the immediate future, the next year or so, the first year of the program, we are targeting face-to-face only with the courses, but very quickly we're hoping that the success of the program will lead us to increasing our course offerings and adding those online. I'm sorry, what was the second half of that question,
No,
Terry?
that's okay. You've answered one of the questions that I had, and we're nearly about out of time. But John, thank you so much for joining us here, talking about program creation. And now, through the efforts of you and all of your colleagues, a brand new master's degree in communication will be unveiled. And in an upcoming episode, we're going to have Dr. Melody Fisher joining us to talk about the starting of the graduate program here in just a few months. So our guest has been Dr. John Nicholson. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for watching us here on Communication Connection. Please join us next time.